Hi folks, this is video 156 and the title is The Train. It's a good thing I put maybe on what I thought was going to be my final story, but this one popped up, so here we go. This evening, while watching an old western titled The Painted Desert, I recalled a special event that occurred somewhere in New Mexico. My girlfriend Colleen and I were taking a 3-week self-guided tour of the Southwest. When I was a kid, my Grandpa Perry gave me a Lionel train set. It was the yellow Union Pacific double engine. It came with a coal car, cattle car, box car, and a caboose. It was a great train for a 3-year-old to start with. A few years later, I added to my set. There was a box-like yard engine. It was bright red with a device on top for acquiring power from overhead lines. It came with a few cars and a caboose. There was a third train. I only had it for a short time. There was some kind of family squabble, and my beautiful Santa Fe Special went away. I was only 5 or 6, too young to understand such things. It was bright red and silver, with 4 or 5 silver bubble-top passenger cars. The bubble was a clear glass observatory for better passenger viewing. Of the 3, even though I only had it for a short time, it was my favorite. Maybe it was how great it looked because it shined so. We had been driving for some time. We pulled over, parked, and got out to stretch our legs. There was no traffic. We had pulled off to the right shoulder in the middle of a long, sweeping left curve. The road followed around a mountain. Parallel to the left side of the road was a single railroad track. It was a beautiful, bright, sunny afternoon in the desert. The sun was on the van side of the road. As I walked over to the tracks, I remembered the beautiful Santa Fe model train. I mentioned to Colleen how neat it would be to see it during our travels. And just seconds later, there was the rumble of an engine coming from our right as we stood by the tracks. You guessed it. Around that big sweeping curve was the real Santa Fe Special. It looked freshly washed and waxed. It looked brand new. I traded salutes with the engineer as he passed by at a distance of about 20 feet. It was a maximum length train. There were 3 or 4 passenger cars without bubbles. The rest were freight cars. A maximum train, last I knew, was 150 cars. A 6-year-old's imagined dream came true. I know I've done this for my vision-impaired friends, but for those of you who can, I've plugged in a couple pictures. Picture on the left shows pretty much exactly what I saw when that big old Santa Fe came around that big sweeping curve. Picture on the right was taken off the slope of a mountainside, looking out over a desert plain surrounded by mountains. The railroad track follows the base of the mountain around the plain. And this is definitely a full-length train. It goes back about, I don't know how many cars, and it gradually swings around to the left. It goes about the same distance, and it swings back around and out of sight around the end of the mountain. Definitely a maximum length train. If you checked out the 1980 house fire story, you'll remember the fire got into the attic. Yep, right where all the Christmas decorations and my trains were stored. There was a lot of melted plastic. The train bodies were all warped, but the running gear was fine. Moose was an electrician at work, who was a model railroad buff. I gave him my stuff for parts. 2 weeks later, somebody burgled his house and stole all his railroad train collection. Parts, too. Well, I hadn't thought of this story for 20 years. Thought I was pretty well done. Apparently not. Well, I hope you like my little story about the train. And as always, everyone, I wish you all the best.